The podcast you're about to enjoy is part of the LOWTREE Studios podcast network. To enjoy great podcasts like this one, go now to the LOWTREEstudios.com. And remember, get to the podcast.
It's the road trip from hell, but at least there's some turkey and stuffing waiting for you at the end. We cover planes, trains, and automobiles this week and find out just how much anxiety I can endure during a movie. This week on Wreck My Holiday.
I never did introduce myself. Del Griffith. Del Griffith. Del Griffith. Del Griffith. I can take anything.
Welcome in to the Wreck My Podcast, where we're starting off the holiday season strong with a movie we thought was a Christmas movie that ended up actually being a Thanksgiving movie. But hey,
it's holiday season.
We're gonna say it's transitioning from Thanksgiving to the Christmas season. I'm here with my guest. She can play pickup sticks with her butt cheeks. It's Madison.
That's me. Hello.
She's also my wife. And then I'm your host. I handle my balls in 1 hour more than Larry Bird does in a night. I'm your host, Jordan.
I can attest to that. Yeah. Get it? Test.
That was actually a pretty heady joke. Just people got to make that connection.
Yeah.
This movie is so much fun.
Yes.
I think we had a great time doing it. Now, the question is, which I always ask, have you watched this before?
Oh, of course. Yes. So the story behind this movie is that when I was growing up, there was only one scene I wasn't allowed to watch, which made it a quote-unquote kid-friendly movie for me, according to my mom. But growing up, my dad is one of those people. He's a man of few words, you know, and he's not somebody to really, like, laugh out loud. And so I always was, like, trying to get him to laugh out loud. And my mom told me, like, one of the only times she, like, heard him laugh so hard he was crying was watching this movie in theaters.
Okay.
And so I like had a fascination with this movie at a young age. So yes, I have watched it many a time growing up, and it still makes me laugh to this day.
Which is funny because I had never watched this movie until I think we were dating at the time.
Yeah.
And you had me come over to your house and we watched it. Mm-hmm. So this is probably like, 6 years ago or something.
Sure.
We watched this movie somewhere around there, which is probably the last time you've watched it.
Yeah,
too.
I haven't seen it since.
So my first time was 6 years ago. So this was only my second time.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time we watched it, I don't know if I was like not.
You weren't a fan.
I didn't like it. I was like, I like John Hughes, but I didn't think it was funny. This time watching it, I was dying laughing
hilarious.
So many times.
Yes.
And it must just be I wasn't in a comedic mood at the time or something.
Also, we said, to be fair, this is a complete 80s movie.
Oh, so
like,
much 80s.
You have to be in the mood for an 80s film.
Yes.
And I feel like for me, I grew up watching Steve Martin movies. I love Steve Martin. But John Candy has a special little place in my heart because he is one of the main characters in Splash, which is the movie I was named after.
Yes.
So I feel like I grew up watching this like every year and watching Splash every other day. And so I feel like John Candy just like makes me like so happy inside.
And John Candy was in one of my favorite films as a kid growing up, Cool Runnings.
Yes.
He's a main character in that.
Yeah.
So I definitely am on the John Candy train. Gone too young. R.I.P. Man. It's sad because was it a heart attack that killed him? Like
I think
the obesity?
so. I think it was like, who's the other one? The Beverly Hills Cop or the Beverly Hills Ninja?
Oh my gosh, Tommy
what's
Boy.
his name?
Chris Farley.
Yeah, like he's another one that like you just like get so happy watching them, and then
know.
They
and
pass.
What's sad is I was reading some fun facts about this movie, and one of the fun facts was that they spent all this money and set all this gym equipment up for him, and it, like by his trailer and stuff, like treadmills and all.
Oh, really?
Because at the time he was told by doctors, you need to start getting this reeled in.
Oh, really?
It's a problem. But he didn't use any of the equipment. So like production sets were literally trying to help him lose weight and get in shape, but he didn't do it.
By the way, he's also in Home Alone.
He's well, we're going to bring him up later about Home Alone.
Sorry.
But yes, he's Gus Polinski.
Yes.
He's a big John Hughes person.
Yeah.
You know, Uncle Buck, Home Alone. I think there were 2 other John Hughes films he shows up in for a little bit.
Sure.
But Uncle Buck's the big one that everyone kind of knows. This movie, though, as much as I found it funny, was giving me so much anxiety because especially the motel room scene where his stuff is just everywhere in the bathroom and Steve Martin has to use the tiny little hand towel to like wipe off. That I've stayed with people like that, which is why
if you're talking about me, I'm right here.
Not you. I mean, I traveled for work for a long time before I met you, and we typically had to stay with roommates.
Yeah.
So I had to stay with people I worked with, and there were some people who were very much like this, and it would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
And so that was giving me so much anxiety. I was joking to you. I'm like, this movie is essentially a horror film for me.
Yes.
Because I hate having to look at this.
It's
Plus,
so funny.
you were laughing too because when John Candy's trying to fall asleep and he's like cracking his knuckles and all that.
It's me.
You haven't done it lately, but the first few years of our marriage, you would literally wake up in the middle of the night, sit up, crack both your wrist, all your fingers, your neck, and then go back to sleep. And I would just be laying there scared out of my mind. Like, what just happened?
Literally.
What happened? I hate cracking bones. I hate it. But I'm like, you were dead asleep and you just sat up, cracked all your bones, and went back to sleep.
I literally I'm not going to be able.
So
I'm not going to be able to tell the story. No, I feel like sometimes, when you can't go back to sleep and you're like, you just need that release.
Yes.
Like, that always gets me to go back.
Yes, I guess so. For me, my release is different, I guess.
I'm not very professional. Oh my gosh. But yes.
Yeah, so
that is
we were
pretty
joking.
much a story of you and my first year
We
of
were very
marriage.
much joking about that as well. Next, I want to mention some things we noticed because we typically talk about things that we noticed this time around. So Kevin Bacon cameo at the beginning, which is a lot of fun.
Favorite.
Which he doesn't show up in the movie again. So it's kind of
just a cameo.
Yeah, he's just there, a cameo. But what's funny is there's a movie called a movie that he's in. Sorry, I looked through my notes here. Yes, no, it's called She's Having a Baby. And in one scene where Steve Martin is talking to his wife in the motel, on the TV in the background, you can hear a scene playing from that movie that Kevin Bacon is speaking in.
Oh, that's
funny. So not only is Kevin Bacon a cameo in this movie, he's in a movie on the TV playing as well.
So he's like a double cameo.
Well, it makes me think, is Kevin Bacon playing himself in this movie and Neil and Steve Martin just didn't recognize him as the actor Kevin Bacon?
Well, I guess if you found out in the credits, does it say Kevin Bacon as himself?
No, I think it says taxi
yeah.
So I think he has like one of those non-descriptive names where it's like taxi person number 2 or whatever,
Yeah.
He's that. Another thing I noticed here, you actually noticed it before I did, is Ben Stein is doing the front desk at the airport saying pretty much your flight is canceled. But behind him is a sign that says destination nowhere.
Yes.
This sign, which is kind of...
Well, I don't think we would have noticed it either, but we paused it right at that time. And then, we saw in the background, destination
Yeah, and
nowhere.
if you don't know who Ben Stein is, he's Ferris Bueller, or more 90s kids will probably know him as Clear Eyes guy on the commercials for the Clear Eye drops that you use when you would get high and your eyes would get red.
I don't know
Clear
that
Eyes
one.
eye drops. Yeah, he was the spokesperson for that for a long time.
Clear Eyes is awesome.
Another cameo, Michael McCain played a state trooper. We know him more as Mr. Green from Clue.
Are you a cop?
No, I'm a plant.
A plant? I thought men like you were usually called a fruit.
Very funny.
Is it Mr.
We
Green?
thought
said
he was. I know. We thought he was
Plum.
Professor Plum at first, but no, he's Mr. Green.
You're right.
Yeah, so that's a lot of fun. He's billed as 4th, so he's the 4th person in the credits. Top billing for this guy. He's in the movie for 90 seconds.
Is it because he was just like a big actor at the time?
He's a pretty big actor. I think he had a bigger part. So here's the thing. This movie, John Hughes had about 3.5 hours worth of footage that they cut together for the movie.
Oh, okay.
And then they had to break it down to 2 hours. And then they had to break it down to 1 hour and 37 for the theatrical release.
Jeez.
So there's take this movie and then a whole nother movie of deleted scenes.
Well, the thing is as most typical 80s movies, like this is just like one big SNL sketch.
Yes.
So I feel like, these movies can end up being like 4 hours because they just are like, and then what if this happens? Then could keep
So
going.
much
like,
improv.
You need them to like reel it in a little bit.
Exactly. Speaking of improv, Sorry, my dog is... Bailey, why you gotta walk by here? Come around.
She wants to be like
she's
right
walking by
you.
the recorder here. I'm scared she's gonna turn it off. Okay, so speaking of improv, Eddie McClurg, she played the car rental attendant.
Yes,
she was
we love
also
her.
Grace from Ferris Bueller,
Yes.
the principal's
Yes.
assistant or
Yes.
whatever she was in that. But what's cool about her is she's talking to someone on the phone about her Thanksgiving plans in the movie. That was all improv. John Hughes was just like, fake a conversation.
Oh, sure.
That you're talking to someone
I
about
could totally
Thanksgiving.
see that.
Right
Yeah.
off the...
Gobble, gobble.
Yeah, right there. Done. Like, that was her. And so good. She's such a good
she
improv
is very
actor.
Good.
No, Mom's gonna do the turkey. Yeah, Dad wants ambrosia, so I guess we gotta get those miniature marshmallows. And I'll do the crescent rolls, and you do the cranberries. You know I can't cook. Oh. Yeah, well, I'll see you tomorrow then. Gobble, gobble. Oh, bye-bye.
We have one thing that we noticed that we're both like, how was this a thing in existence? Vibrating beds in hotels that you would put a quarter in and it would vibrate.
It would vibrate.
How is that a thing that
Like,
existed?
is that supposed to be like, I assume it's supposed to be like relaxing? Like you're supposed to be like, oh, the soothing motion? But he looked like he was just kind of being like jerked around by the bed.
Yeah.
And then they even make the joke that he had a bunch of beer cans on it. And then it like made them like blow up because it was like literally shaking him that hard. It wasn't like a gentle rocking.
Yeah, which I thought was a great joke in the sense that they probably filmed the scene of the beer cans spraying
Sure.
open and they cut it out, which actually made it almost funnier.
Yes.
That they mention it without actually saying it.
Because you know
you
what
just-
that would be like.
Yeah.
You don't need to watch that for that to happen.
And you realize that this guy, even while we're not watching him, Dell is just a train wreck.
Yes, he's just making his life a living hell.
So I thought that was great. But speaking of Dell, both you and I were kind of confused. There's the scene where he's trying to take off his jacket in the car and he
Yes.
gets stuck. But both you and I were thinking, hey, why couldn't he get his arms out from where it was?
Well,
it looked like he could still pull his arm
and the
out.
thing I was thinking is, I was thinking about like from my point of view, I'm like, yeah, just then pull your arm out. But maybe because of his mass, like the way his arm was, like he would actually be stuck versus like being
Possibly.
able to like be like us and just pull your elbow up. Like maybe
Yeah.
he wasn't able to do that because the jacket was tight or something. Like I was thinking about that after. I'm like, maybe it's just because of his sheer mass. Like he was taking up more than half of that.
Yeah,
front
and
seat.
also that jacket was pretty like
It was puffy.
It was a big puffy jacket that was kind of
Kinda
tight
tight
on
on
him.
him. Yeah.
So I guess we could believe it.
Yeah.
But we also were kind of. But he also
It's
like
for the joke.
It's for the joke. And speaking of jokes, that scene afterwards is the funniest scene. We were dying. Where it's you're going the wrong way. He's like, how does this guy know where we're going? It's like, yeah. How does he know where we're going?
Thanks, bro.
You're going the wrong way! He says we're going the wrong way.
Oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going?
Yeah, how would he know? Thank you. Thanks a lot. Terrific.
Thank you. What a moron.
Oh,
Thanks.
thank you. Like it's just so good.
I feel like that scene, it's probably been done before this, but it's been done a lot after this. Like
Yeah.
even in Dumb and Dumber,
Oh, of course.
they do this scene. This scene is
but that's another
replicated.
SNL
Yes.
like type one.
This scene, Steve Martin and John Candy. I heard that John Hughes was looking at getting John Travolta to play John Candy's character and Rick Moranis to play Steve Martin's character.
What?
I do not think. No, Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks to
Oh,
play.
okay. I was
so it's
gonna
going to
say,
be
I'm like,
Tom
wait a
Hanks
minute,
and
what?
John Travolta. I don't think
That's
it would have
weird.
worked. I think these guys' chemistry is so spot
yeah.
on.
I also think. I think almost every Steve Martin movie I've seen, like that I love, like he's in Parenthood. I love that, and Rick Moranis
Yes.
is in that one.
Yes.
Love that movie. Like he just does such a good job playing like the uptight dad, where you're like, you know, I have a lot
Father
of
of
these
the bride.
characteristics. I
Yeah.
totally empathize. Like, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like he does a really good job, but then also having like some like redeeming
Yes.
qualities. But I feel like Yeah, I guess I could see somebody else playing Steve Martin. It wouldn't be my preference, but I could see it. But nobody else can be John Candy's character, because I feel like you need to like one of my favorite scenes, and I'm sorry if I'm getting ahead, is in that first night that they share the hotel room together, and you're kind of with Steve Martin. You're like, this guy is literally making everything awful. He's not stopping talking. Like, oh my gosh,
Food on
he's
the
so much.
bed.
It's so much. He's not leaving any towels. Like you just like so empathize with Steve Martin's character. And then as soon as Steve Martin turns around and lets him have it, you're immediately sad and are like, oh my gosh, like, no, don't be mean to him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, only John Candy, I feel like, has that where you're like, no, he is a good guy. Like, you turn it right around. Like, there's so many of those moments in this movie where you're like laughing so hard, but then there's a lot of really good, like, dramatic, like, I cry every time I watch this movie. Like, I just feel like John Candy is the only one who can be Del Griffith.
I think John Candy is just that person. I think even in real life, he was this
probably that person.
Sweet, fun-loving, fun to be around guy, but he had a type of sadness in his heart that shone through sometimes
Absolutely.
too.
Where you believed it.
Yeah, and I think that's a great thing. Like, we always say great actors kind of can do whatever, but I think great actors play off of emotions that they're good at.
Yeah.
So a good actor doesn't necessarily mean they have a wide range. A good actor knows this is the role I'm meant to play, and I'm going to play it masterfully.
Yeah.
And I think that's what John Candy was.
Yeah.
Because even in Cool Runnings, not as much of a comedy, more of a drama. Same vibe. This guy that you just knew at one point was this fun-loving, great guy that has this like depression or sadness in his heart.
Yeah,
and
he does the same thing kind of in Splash too.
Yeah,
like he ends up being the sacrificial character.
Yeah,
you know?
So good stuff there. I like they made a point to show that Del was a good salesman, though.
Oh,
that he wasn't just this bumbling idiot. He's good at his job.
Yes, exactly.
Which is very, very cool. Del sings the Flintstones on the bus.
Yes.
Which made me think of The Office. And I never realized that this was probably Steve Carell doing a direct homage to this movie. Because you got to imagine Steve Carell is a fan of John Hughes films.
I mean, also, I think that could be just like like another testament to like the strengths and the drawbacks of each character. Like, yeah, you want to think you're more like kind of like Neil Page, like you're like the successful, like, you know, but he's like so out of touch and like just doesn't get it. And then I'm like, that's where he comes in. So I feel like it's another one of those, like, they're just like really building the foundation of these characters.
I agree. And then the last thing I want to mention that I never really noticed till this time around was the two people on the bus that were making out. And then Steve Martin turns away for 1 second, then turns back, and they're both smoking cigarettes. And it's supposed to imply like they had sex on a public bus and like 5 seconds.
Right.
And that
which is how you have to do it.
And Steve Martin's reaction is kind of funny too. He like looks back and then double takes and is like, what just happened?
Oh, it's so good. It's the little things.
Yeah, those little things cracked me up. So, question that I have to ask, did it wreck your holiday?
Oh, absolutely not. I love it.
I agree.
It's so good.
I thought it took a second viewing for me, but I'm fully on board with this being an every year watch, like Home Alone is for me and all that. This movie's great.
I think we both thought the same thing. I remember thinking it's a Christmas movie, which even if you look at the cover, it has like a candy cane lamppost and like Christmas colored planes, trains, and automobiles. So I'm like, that's why I thought it was Christmas. It's Thanksgiving, but I'm like, this would be a really fun, like, watch it Thanksgiving weekend as you go into the Christmas. Yes, because it's so good.
I thought it, like, I remembered it being Thanksgiving he was trying to get home for. I thought the plot took him 2 months to get home or a month to get home or whatever.
Yeah.
So he was trying to get there by Christmas Day.
No, it's really only like 48 hours.
Yeah, it's like 2 or 3 days, you know? So that's pretty funny. Now, what we're going to do is what we typically do is we play a trailer for everyone after we talked about this a little bit so you guys can reminisce with us if you haven't seen it in a while or you've never seen it at all. This trailer, I believe, is mostly deleted scenes from the film in this trailer, which is kind of funny. They used a lot of the scenes they didn't do, which is fun because at least it's not jokes you're laughing at in the trailer that then you're laughing at in movies as well, because that's sometimes the bad thing about it. But if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube, it's a great place to go see the video rather than just the audio, as well as our Instagram. So go subscribe to both of those while you're at it. And here is the trailer.
During holiday travel, some people get delirious. Some get delayed. And some get Del Griffith.
American Light and Fixture, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
Neil Page got all three.
I was on my way home to spend a nice holiday with my family. Instead, I'm in a motel bed with a stranger.
So instead of Thanksgiving with his family, he's spending 3 days with the turkey.
Two happy clams just whistling down the road.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones. They're the Marconi family.
Paramount Pictures presents
Wilma!
Steve Martin,
Ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah.
You see Don Ho while you were there?
See the second show. That's the best one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
John Candy,
Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
in a new film by John Hughes. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
See that Bears game last week? Yeah, hell of a game.
All right, now that we're done with the trailer, we're going to talk about some info about the movie, just like info you can find at wreckmypodcast.com about our podcast over
There
here.
you
So go check
go.
out wreckmypodcast.com, but we're going to fill you in a little bit about planes, trains, and automobiles right now. This movie came out November 25th, 1987, which I think was 1 or 2 days before Thanksgiving that year.
Interesting.
So 2 years before I was born. What is that, 5 years before you were born? Or 5 years before you were
92.
born. And I'm surprised they didn't release it at the earlier than just
But
like
also,
the day
we
or
said
two
that
before
this
Thanksgiving.
year they released the new Witches, which you and I have no interest in seeing, on Halloween.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's wanting to watch that after. I was so surprised.
The pump is primed before. You got to release it before. I get that when movies are released on Christmas Day, they're not Christmas movies usually.
Right.
They're movies that everyone knows you have off, go watch the movie.
Sure.
If you were to release a Christmas movie on Christmas Day, that seems a little bit...
It seems a little late.
Superfluous, I guess, in the sense that you're killing your audience right there. Like, who's going to want to watch a Christmas movie first week of January?
Yeah, I don't think many people would. But maybe we're wrong. Maybe that's when to do it.
But with that being said, this movie grossed $49 million while it was in theaters. It had a $30 million budget, so made its money back. I think it only made $7 or $9 million opening weekend.
Okay.
Which
In the
80s is a little bit different than it is now. Most of this movie was filmed in various parts of Illinois, New York, so it's very much in track with that. There were a few scenes filmed in California. I think a lot of the scenes were filmed in Buffalo, New York as well. There was a lot of production problems we'll talk about later on down the way here. Do you want to guess? Did you see what the score was? Do you want to guess what the audience and critics score was on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm so bad at these. Audience score 70, critics score like 50.
Okay, so you're way off. So this
I knew I would be.
50 is usually the mark of a pretty bad movie.
Oh, okay.
91% critic score. So this is certified fresh, if you will. And an 87% audience.
So really good.
So people love this movie.
See, I always underdo it because I feel like everybody hates the movies I love.
Well, it's funny too because there's some movies where it's like even I think Thanksgiving got a 49% or something. Like, sometimes it's very off. But this movie is right on where it should be, I think. 91 and 87. It was written and directed by John Hughes.
Right.
80s legend. This guy, all the stuff that is 80s classics he did. And you know it was a film by him because of the snazzy's 80 music that he likes to put in his film. Of
course.
Where it's got like a DJ like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and 16 Candles and all that. We have our two main characters that we've talked about. Steve Martin plays Neil Page. He's kind of the straight man. And then John Candy plays Del Griffith, who's kind of the loose cannon, crazy guy and everything. Go with the flow. One movie we didn't mention Steve Martin was in was Three Amigos, which I think is a movie I've never seen. Which people love that movie. And I feel like I need to watch it for this podcast because it's Steve Martin, Rick Moranis, and one other funny guy. I think it was three SNL guys.
With Rick Moranis.
Yeah. Well, Rick Moranis was in Little Shop of Horrors, and I can't remember. Is it Steve Martin? I think is also in Little Shop of Horrors as well.
I just know they're both in Parenthood, and I love that movie.
Steve Martin, what I knew him from originally, I think, when I was a kid, was the Pink Panther movie.
Oh, really?
And
That's
Cheaper
funny.
by the Dozen. Those were like the two early 2000s films I knew him from. Yeah, so that's
he also
funny.
has a movie that is something about him having a really long nose. And the joke at the end is that like he finally gets the girl, and it's like an awkward like kissing scene because he has like a really long nose. So
that's pretty funny.
If anybody knows what I'm talking
about, anyone knows.
Was not a weird like lucid dream I had. That's like a real movie.
That would be pretty funny if that was a dream you had. We should make that movie. If it doesn't exist, we should make that movie. Call Steve Martin. Get him on the phone. I know
for sure it is a movie.
Steve Martin's the guy. I can't remember. Is Steve Martin the guy who got famous on the Jungle Cruise for being super fun? Or he was in the Magic Shop? Something with Disneyland.
Oh, really?
Steve Martin worked there when he was really young, and that's how
he worked there.
And that's how he got discovered, I believe.
Oh, I have no idea.
Someone was there. And then they thought, man, this guy's funny, and started his work in like TV and all that and everything.
No, I didn't know that. I just know he worked there.
So the girl who plays Neil's wife, I think her first name's Layla. I think it's Layla Roberts. I wanted to mention her. You probably don't recognize her.
No.
And honestly, she's not in a lot of stuff I know, but what she is in, because I did recognize her and I was trying to put my finger on it. There's a recent TV show out called The Blacklist that has Robert California. What's his name?
His name is Robert California.
James Spader. Thank you. James Spader's in it, and she plays a pretty major character in the later seasons. Her name is Natasha Rostovo or something like that.
Okay.
Pretty big character in like the last season or two.
Okay.
And she was in it, so I was like, that's where I know her from. She's just older. She's like 30 years older, and so that was kind of throwing me off. But okay. Dylan Baker, he plays Owen the truck driver, the guy who's like spitting and stuff.
Love him.
Did you recognize where he was from a movie we watched this Halloween season?
I was gonna say he's not the hillbilly from House of Wax, is he? Because
no.
That's the vibe he was giving me.
He is the evil principal guy from Trick or Treat.
Oh, I don't even remember.
Who has the son that they like? He murders the fat kid with the candy bar.
Yeah, I would have never put those.
That's
together.
him, and that was driving me nuts too. I'm like,
he didn't even look familiar.
Because Dylan Baker is one of those people where like he has a pretty distinct face, and he's in a lot of movies.
Yeah,
and I remember being like, I know your face. Why do I know it recently? That's funny. The movie I was thinking of. And then finally, Matthew Lawrence, I wanted to mention. It plays Neil's son.
Yes.
Mrs. Doubtfire, he's the son in that.
Of course.
Also, Brotherly Love, the Lawrence brothers. I mean, if you grew up
like 90s,
if you grew up in the 90s, you know Matthew Lawrence. Yes. You know the Lawrence
Cutest
brothers.
Little kid.
Yeah, it's great. I wonder what that guy's doing now. I don't think he's been in much lately.
I have no idea.
All right, so now that we're done talking about this info,
yes,
we have a segment where Jordan explains the movie quickly.
Do it.
But we're changing it up a bit because we're now taking the plot breakdown and we're putting it into the Jordan explains the movie quickly. So instead of doing two where I do a funny little one sentence thing and then do a plot breakdown, we're just condensing the movie into a few minutes where I just go through it real quick. And there we go. We're done with that. You don't have to also sit through another 20 minutes of us talking. And that's kind of what we're going to do from this point on, even when the guys come in. Mm-hmm. That's what we're going to do. So let's get into me explaining the movie. Hopefully I don't mess up on any of this because it's quite a few sentences here. Oh, yes. It's time for Jordan to explain the movie quickly. Neil is late for his 6 o'clock flight from New York to Chicago, so he makes a mad dash to the airport only to find out the flight was delayed. Oh, the irony. If his stress level wasn't high enough, he gets bumped from first class to coach, so now he has to sit with loudmouth, stinky foot, shower curtain ring salesman Dale Griffith. Little does Neil realize his stress level hasn't even been tested yet. A storm in Chicago requires the flight to be rerouted to Wichita, Kansas, and with no hotel rooms and no flights left, Neil is forced into working with Dell to try and get home for Thanksgiving. No 80s movie is complete without a homophobic moment joking that two grown men sleeping in the same bed will inevitably lead to sex. They travel by train, but no luck, it breaks down. They travel by bus, but it only gets them to St. Louis. During this whole time, Neil is more bipolar towards Dell than the Katy Perry song Hot and Cold. Neil tries to get a rental car on his own to drive the rest of the way, but life just loves to beat poor Neil down. He takes it out on the front desk lady and says more F-bombs than hot dog flavored water by Limp Bizkit. After all that, he's forced once again to road trip with Dell to make it home in time. After numerous near-death experiences, Neil realizes that Dell isn't such a bad guy and they become real friends. But wait, That's not the end. They get pulled over and lose their car, so now they have to sit in the back of a refrigerated truck the last 3 hours to Chicago. After Neil and Del part ways to go to their respective families for Thanksgiving dinner, Neil realizes that Del was lying about having somewhere to go because his wife has been dead for 8 years. This is where we cry. Neil invites Del to dinner, and we end with that warm, fuzzy feeling in our hearts, as well as a freeze frame on John Candy's adorable face.
Oh, it was good.
So there we go. Good. I only stumbled a few times. Normally I would pre-record that probably and make sure that none of it was stumbled through and everything. But
you're having a Schitt's Creek moment.
I am. What are you referencing?
Moira during her commercial.
Hi, I'm Moira Rose. And if you love fruit wine as much as I do, then you'll appreciate the craftsmanship and quality of a local vintner.
What do you mean, what are my referencing? I've only seen like 4 episodes.
I couldn't remember like what scene you were in reference to. That's pretty funny.
Man.
That's pretty funny. I love Moira. All right, so let's do some fun facts. And let me tell you, I've confirmed Charlie Shaw from the Elite 8 Showdown podcast. This is his favorite jingle I've ever done, I believe, is the fun facts one. It's an earworm that burrows right into the acorn he calls a brain and does not leave there.
Wow, your people skills are just...
Hey, he's the one who says guys and girls, cats and squirrels. So let's get into some fun facts about this movie. What is facts? Baby, they're fun. They're fun. Oh yeah. What is facts? Baby, they're fun. They're fun. Oh yeah. All right, so the first fun fact I have on here is without the marathon car scene where he says the F word a bunch of times, which is actually 18 times in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
That it would the movie would be rated PG-13 if they cut that scene out. So
yes, that was the scene I was not allowed to watch growing up.
Which is funny because it was either New Zealand or Australia, but this movie with that scene in it is still rated PG.
Oh, interesting.
Which is so weird to me how ratings work in other countries sometimes, you know? So that's kind of interesting. Maybe their PG there is like our PG-13 here or something. Different. I don't know. So John Hughes got the idea for this movie because he actually had a flight diversion that took him from going to Chicago to Wichita, and it took him 5 days to finally get home.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, writers, the great sign of a writer is write things that happen to you. Which I say is why I'm not a great writer. I'm not famous for any writing yet because I just haven't had that experience happen to me yet that's given me the
like
story.
Like a great love story?
No, not that. I mean a comedy writer.
Yeah, like that?
I wouldn't be a romantic writer at all. Like, that's not my forte. My forte is humor and self-deprecation. So there we go.
There you go.
The exterior shot of the plane when they're flying through the storm is just a reused footage from the movie Airplane. Which is another movie I would love to rewatch. I haven't seen that in forever.
I've never seen that one.
Don't call me Shirley. You've never seen Airplane?
No, I know that scene, obviously, because everybody names it, but I've never seen it.
I feel like that's a movie you definitely would have seen with your your parents being your parents.
I have not seen it.
Wow, we should really watch that.
Maybe.
It's fun. It's fun. It's also a little bit racist in some parts, but 80s. So there you go.
It's a different time.
Different time, I guess. I don't know. John Hughes. Okay, so we cracked up at the scene with Owen, the truck driver, like spitting.
Oh my gosh, it's
and all
so
that.
Funny.
So John Hughes didn't like how that scene was going, so he went up and told Dylan Baker, "Hey, spit and then wipe your mouth before you shake their hands," but didn't tell Steve Martin or John Candy. So Steve Martin's disgusted reaction.
But he only does it to Steve Martin.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Steve Martin's disgusted reaction is legitimately him being disgusted, and the moment that scene was over, Steve ran to the bathroom to wash his hands
because
he was so
Neil
grossed
Page
out.
In real life.
Yeah,
Just kidding. I think anybody would have a Neil Page moment.
Seriously, but I thought that was amazing. That John Hughes is like, I'm not getting the reaction I want. Let's do this thing.
Let's make it legit.
That's pretty fun. John, I already said that. So the movie. I already said that too. Man, sometimes I give I shoot my fun facts out ahead of time, and then I forget where they are in my script, and then I'm sitting here going,
That is okay.
So there was, all right, let's talk about how many production problems they had.
Yeah.
Because they kept wanting to get snow and like they kept trying to chase snow and film in different areas. And whenever they would get there and get ready to film, the snow would melt.
Go figure.
So it kept causing all this production problems. And because of that, they hired a guy to be the actor who was the truck driver that we never has a line, that won't let them drive in the front of the cab.
Okay.
And they have to go in the back. Because there were so many weather problems, that guy was supposed to be there for like half a day shooting with no lines, but they put him on standby because they kept having to wait for the weather to be correct. And he was on standby for so long that he made enough money to put a down payment on a house from that role.
Is that not the dream?
He was supposed to probably be paid like $300 and a ham sandwich.
Yeah.
And this guy was able to put money on down on a house.
That is so funny.
That is insane.
That's great.
to me, isn't it? Another funny thing that happened with a background actor. So Jeri Ryan, do you recognize that name?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I've mentioned her before because she plays 7 of 9 on Star Trek
yes,
Voyager.
You did mention that.
She also plays in Mortal Kombat Legacy, Sonya Blade, right? Is that her name? Yeah. So Jeri Ryan, big actress now and everything in the sci-fi community. She was hired as a background actress for the bus scene. But she got told to leave because she couldn't stop laughing at Steve Martin and John Candy.
Oh, my gosh.
So it's this funny thing that Jeri Ryan, who's now a pretty big actress, was in a background actress, an extra, if you will. And she got told to leave.
I literally think that all the time. Like, for the people, even like in the office or like whatever, like to not break. I would be awful. Like,
I would not be
especially to be in person. Like, you're missing so much when you're like going through the screen and it still makes you laugh so much. Oh my goodness. I can't even imagine what it would be like in person.
I agree. I would not be good at that at all, which is, again, why I'm not an actor. That's the only reason why, because I just break too much. Although Jimmy Fallon made it work.
There you go.
That
He's made a career off of it.
Weird little man. So... Another thing that was very interesting to me, I read this. So John Hughes, originally there was a different ending to this. The ending was that Del was going to continue to follow Neil home and pretty much go home with him without Neil inviting him kind of thing. But they thought it would be better if Del kind of had that aha moment and woke up and realized, like, I'm being a pain, let him go, and then be Neil the one to realize to come back and be like, hey, invite you kind of thing. So, because they filmed that, and then John Hughes decided he didn't really like it, they had to do some quick editing and reshots to get it to work how he wanted it to work. And one of those things is that flashback sequence where Steve Martin's on the train and he's kind of like thinking of his family, thinking of food, and then he starts thinking of like the funny moments he had with Del and all that, and he's sitting there and he's like laughing and doing like the oh gosh. That film was a candid moment. John Hughes continued to film Steve Martin after the scene was done, and that's Steve Martin thinking of his next lines and scenes and getting in character and kind of thinking of some things. That was just him.
Oh, interesting.
He wasn't directed to do that. That wasn't supposed to be a scene that was supposed to be in the movie at all. Just they continued filming in between scenes.
Right.
And Steve Martin and John Hughes has said, the one great thing about Steve Martin is he's so expressive.
Absolutely.
Even when he's not acting, just as a human, this guy is super expressive. And I think that's so cool that you have this moment in a movie where it's a candid shot.
Yeah, they weren't like being told to do that.
Yeah, it's so cool. It gives it a little bit of a more interesting context.
Yes.
Because he's actually thinking about like the scenes and script and stuff like that.
It also just shows you the power of music. They play some sentimental music over it and you feel all bubbly, but if you just watched it without any music, you'd be like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So very, very cool. Last thing I want to mention here are my fun facts. We didn't do it because you always make fun of me for wanting to see if there's a post-credit teaser, a post-credit scene. There was a post-credit scene.
I know there's a post-credit scene.
And if you also didn't sit and wait till the end, I'll tell you what it is. The ad guy from the beginning, looking at the ads, still sitting there looking to see which ad he wants to do, which is a great running joke.
Yes.
Opening scene, post-credit scene, same joke. So good. John Hughes, I applaud you. I love it. It's great. I feel like John Hughes was like, after Ferris Bueller's like, I have to do it in every movie because it works so well in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
I hate post-credit teasers.
I know you really hate them.
Such a waste of time.
I love them. I think they're great. I love it.
Such a waste.
All right, so last thing I want to mention here before we let our friends and fans and family and all that kind of go and enjoy your holiday season until at least next week when
you get back to berating them.
Yeah, back to berating all of them, especially Charlie Shaw. The last thing I want to mention here is some fan theories. I have one, but I wanted to ask you something.
Okay.
Wouldn't this be an interesting theory if Gus Polinski, the Polka King of the Midwest that John Candy plays in Home Alone, is also Del Griffith from this movie? Because when Home Alone came out like 4 or 5 years later, they're almost identical in the sense that they're kind of loudmouth, kind of
but the thing
intrusive.
is, I always thought that was like paying homage to Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, not that they were the same.
I think so too, because the thing is, he has like all the luggage that looks like the trunk.
Yes.
They're in the back of a van traveling like Del Griffith kind of travels.
They literally do that. Yeah, I thought it was paying homage.
But I thought, what if? So the reason why is it's gonna come into this fan theory here of what I'm thinking, because I'm thinking, what if he had to change his name and leave? Because here's the fan theory that one person on Reddit that people have kind of run with. And I don't like this fan theory. I think it's dumb, but it's interesting. Is that what if he accidentally killed his wife 8 years ago and her body is in that trunk? Because the person posits, we never see inside the trunk.
Yeah, we do.
When do we see inside the trunk?
In the very first scene, he takes the pillow out of the trunk. When they stay
but do we see inside of it, or is it?
Well, he opens it up and then he takes up the pillow and you can see there's like stuff in the trunk.
Okay. So this person's wrong then, I guess, because he's saying it's double locked. It's like he won't leave it ever. It's very sentimental, and we mostly think it's sentimental because he has this picture of his wife in there and stuff like that. Which again, I think that there's a lot of more problems with this theory than there's fact to it, because also an 8-year-old rotting corpse in there. I don't think so. Someone would have noticed that.
Yeah.
Like the smell even and everything. But that's the theory. Is like, what if Del accidentally killed his wife and he's now just roaming around with this trunk where she's in it? Which then makes me think, if he is a killer, what if he ends up accidentally killing the whole Page family and has to change his name and go become the Polka King of the Midwest and all that? Anyway, that's funny.
Awful.
What's funny is that's the only fan theory I could find on this movie.
Because fan theories are so dumb sometimes. They're just always trying to pull at things. Like, just watch the dang movie.
I kind of like some of them, though. Like, Home Alone has a lot of good ones.
Make sure I'm not on that episode, because I will just
Oh, well, we already did Home Alone.
Apart. I
so,
meant, like...
I know, you hate fan theories. So if you want to know the Home Alone fan theories I'm talking about, go check out, like, 2 years ago, I think it was.
Was it 2 years already?
I think it might have been 2 years ago that we did Home Alone, and find out some of those fan theories, like how Gus Polinski could be the devil. Also, how Elvis Presley is an extra in the background of one of the scenes.
Yes, I have heard that one.
So there's a lot of fun fan theories there. But anyway, that's the end of this. Thanks to our listeners for tuning in and listening to our Thanksgiving that we thought was Christmas movie breakdown. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Madison, for showing this to me like many years ago, and then also rewatching this with me and being here in front of our Christmas tree. If you're watching on YouTube, Christmas tree here. I got a stormtrooper. We got a bone for our dog. I got a 6-pack of beer on there.
You got
ornaments,
a bunch of Star Wars stuff on the
cool
other side
ornaments.
too.
Yeah, a bunch of Star Wars stuff. You have the fancy prize from A Christmas Story, the leg lamp up there.
Yep, our first ever Wrightwood one.
Yes, we have a little marshmallow guy on there. It's just fun stuff on there that you could see on the YouTube, as well as a giant pile of wood behind me.
And our dog.
Our dog.
Not even 2 feet away this whole time.
Nope. She's always here to tell to what she thinks of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Did you like that movie?
She's
Great.
So tired.
I know. She's just laying on your foot. Anyway, if you want to support us financially, we have a Patreon. You do. Patreon.com/WreckMyPodcast. You get rewards. Not only for $1 a month, you get to listen to extra content that we do every single week. Other tiers get you awesome rewards like stickers and fun little gifts. And you can actually choose a topic as well as one of them. So go check that out. If you don't have the money, I get it, it's Christmas time.
Yeah,
not everyone's got the funds right now. You could give us a rating or a review. That really does help us out. If you give us a review on Apple Podcasts, we'll send you a sticker free of charge just for that review. Really appreciate it. And we'll shout you out the review on an Around a Round Table episode, which is super cool. Speaking of Around a Round Table, we also have episodes where we do more of segment style called Around a Round Table every few weeks or so. So come back, check us out for that. Thank you, Madison, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yes,
You're
of course.
to our loyal listeners, they love when you show up on here because let's be honest, as people learned on the new segment of Around a Round Table called Call Him Kreger,
yes,
you have a very sexy voice.
No.
And you're very beautiful to look at.
I have a very good impression because I am an avid listener of the Call Her Daddy podcast.
You do like the Call Her Daddy podcast.
Can we please do it with Kreger?
Yes, that was all your idea. I love the idea. It's great. But what I love more than anything is you, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you to you. Thank you to our listeners. I think we're going to do Jingle All the Way next week.
Yeah.
If all things go according to plan.
I won't be there, but I'm excited
Yeah, the
to
guys
watch
will be
it.
back. Jingle, I gave them the week off for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So,
Such a sweet host.
What can you do? I know I don't want to burn them out.
No,
but we'll do Jingle All the Way next week. It'll be super fun. I love that movie. You haven't seen it, huh?
No, I don't think so.
So it'll be fun to watch it with you.
Yeah.
And
I literally, Jordan and I
thoughts.
were in the car and I'm like, okay, so not every year, but some years I like watching Standing with Muscles just because I grew up with Hulk Hogan. I'm like, you got to. And I was like, wouldn't it be funny if they had one with Arnold Schwarzenegger? And Jordan was like, do you mean Jingle All the Way?
They
I'm
do.
like,
And it's the best.
like, I don't think I've seen that.
It's so good.
That'll be a fun one.
Jamie! Jamie!
Hopefully I'll get that soon.
All right. We'll see you all next week.
Wreck My Podcast. Wreck My Podcast.
I'm going to do the intro real quick. It's the road trip from hell, but at least there's some turkey and stuffing waiting for you at the end. We cover planes, trains, and automobiles this week and find out just how much anxiety I can endure doing a movie. Oh, dang it. During a movie. It's because endure and during are right next to each other.
Endure.
Enduring.
Endure.
The world juror. All right.
Three.